Hi, I'm Will Bruin, and I was just recognized as a Seattle Sounders legend. Now I get to do voice reads for the Sounder at Heart podcast network.
Here we go. Come on! Hey, O'Shan! Let's go!
A save by Fry! The Seattle Sounders have done it! MLS Cup winners!
Here comes Rui Diaz through the middle to crown it for Seattle! And now they truly can start the celebrations. It's the Sounders MLS Cup.
Nico Lodero leaves absolutely no doubt! The Sounders rule the region! Seattle Sounders is campeón! It's gone! It's gone! Finally!
This feels fucking awesome.
This is a tiny dog.
Nice work on your little yacht thing.
And Portland can't say shit.
You know, what was the thought process in terms of who you decided to use and who you didn't?
Ever since Sounder at Heart wrote a commentary that we didn't take Overcome seriously.
This episode of Nos Arietes is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based wine retailer and proud sponsor of Nos Arietes since 2011. Full Pull was founded in 2009, is based in Seattle, and is owned and operated by longtime Sounders supporters. They offer the best boutique wines of the world to members of their mailing list, with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest. Welcome back to another episode of Nos Arietes. I am Jeremiah O'Shan, and joining me this week, again reprising his role, I'm not even going to say as Matt Doyle's backup. Now you're back for a second time. You're the guy at this point. So Joe Lowery of Backheeled, how the West will be won after week 9. Welcome back, Joe.
Yeah, it's great to be back. First of all, thank you for having me. What Doyle doesn't understand is that the backup quarterback is the best job in sports, right? You cash the checks, you come up clutch every once in a while when your name is called, and you get to hang out and have a good time and eat snacks. Like, I don't understand what the downside is to this situation.
There is no downside. There is no downside. Exactly. So thank you, Joe, for doing this. As we are wont to do on this show, we're going to kind of go a little freestyle. We're just going to kind of go through Western Conference results, Western Conference thoughts. But I wanted to highlight, you do great work at Backheeled. You have at least 2 must-read features every week on there that are, I hope, part of the regular routine of our listeners. And one of them is Winners and Losers, and one of them is your in-depth power rankings. But I want to talk about real quickly at the top of the show, because you were so kind to the Sounders this week in Winners and Losers. Did it feel to you like the Sounders sort of turned a corner this week?
100%. In the way that they get the result against Nashville. I think that this team had turned a corner already in terms of their actual performances on the season, where they've been playing a lot of good ball over the last month or so now, finally getting their feet back under them a little bit after CCC and working their way back through dealing with all these different injuries. I think they've been playing some really good soccer. Really, even that San Diego game, I know, was a tough pill to swallow. They weren't 3 goals worse than San Diego in that game. They were better. Yeah. They were better than San Jose in that 1-1 draw. They were better than Houston in that 0-0, right? And they finally, against Dallas, get back in the win column for the first time in like a real game. That win over LAFC didn't feel like a real game to me. I
agree.
That Dallas win on the road was a real game, and a super Seattle-y real game at that. And then the Nashville win, they played really, really well, just taking over this game against Nashville. And that's what you should do at home against Nashville. But also, and I tried to remind readers in that column, because this has gone maybe a bit under the radar outside of Nashville itself. Nashville this year as a team are a much improved outfit. They have new energy under BJ Callahan. They have a new tactical approach. They're getting production from places under Callahan that they just weren't last season. They retooled part of the roster over the offseason. This is I don't know if legit is probably a little bit too strong, but this is a Nashville team that beat the Philadelphia Union, and that was a better team over both Charlotte and Cincinnati already this year. And Charlotte and Cincinnati are the top 2 teams in the Eastern Conference. So Nashville are a good team. And Seattle took them to task in that game. I thought Christian Roldan and Obed Vargas were phenomenal in that midfield in probably their best game of the season. Yeah, 100% agree. Obed Vargas in particular, I've been a little slower to hop on the Obed train than I think some people. I'm there, man. I'm all the way there. The way that he took Jack Mayer and just bent him all around in that assist that he had to Pedro de la Vega. Yeah, it was a great performance. One of the better individual performances I've seen from the Sounders in a hot minute.
Yeah, it was a very positive performance in a lot of ways that you outlined. I'll tell you a stat I just looked up today.
Please.
That I was very interested. I thought it was very telling. So when Musovski or Morris are on the field, the Sounders are outscoring opponents in league play 12-6. When they are not on the field, they're being outscored 5-0. And really, the XG numbers tell a very similar story. They're basically 1.9 to 0.85 XG advantage versus like 0.69 to 0.72 or something like that. Like, but it's like
wow.
They're actually playing okay defense when neither one of them are on the field. But there's almost a 3x difference in their XG when those guys are on the field, which is, they're basically scoring at 2 goals a clip, two goals a game when those guys play. And what's very convenient about that is that they have not played together at all. They've played in the same game, but they've only replaced each other, or one of them is in and one of them is out. So it's really easy to actually gather this data, but it makes for some, it's like one of those fun things where the data tells the exact same story that your like eyes are telling you.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the Sounders have really benefited when that 9 has been on the field to actually push the opposing backline back and create space underneath. I'm still waiting. I know Ferreira grabs a pair of assists in this game against Nashville. Still sort of waiting for more from him. I mean, you can't ask for more than a pair of assists, but assists are kind of a made up stat anyway, right? Where I could tap a ball to you 4 yards to my left and you could go weave through 12 dudes and that would be an assist for me, right? That's all a bit hand wavy and fake. But I'm still waiting for a bit more from both Ferreira and from De La Vega, although both of those guys were, I thought, good in this game. But man, if you can combine high level number 9 play, and I think this team has that, with the elite double pivot play, with really good defensive play, you're going to be a good team. And I've never really wavered in that belief in the Sounders this year. I feel like the belief has been so obvious for anybody who wanted to go out there and grab it, because this team has still been playing good soccer. But it's fun to see them actually prove the theory that I think we all had about this team coming into the year, which was that when they needed to rotate because of CCC, and maybe I thought they'd still be in CCC at this point, but inevitably when they needed to rotate in the early season, they would still be able to pick up points and they would still be able to look good doing it. And missing 5 projected starters between Morris and Rusnak, and you have no Jackson Reagan, no Roldan, and Areola, all those guys to varying degrees of injuries, and you still go out there and you just absolutely decimate another team that is a high quality opposition. Yeah, it's a good weekend for the Sounders.
Yeah, and to be able to bring on Jordan Morris, Albert Rusnak, Ryan Kent, João Paulo, Alex Roldan,
it's ridiculous.
When you're already up 3-0 is a pretty sweet position to be in. We didn't see a ton of Ryan Kent in this game, and I don't want to get too bogged down in the Sounders because we'll have plenty of time to talk about that later. But I liked what I saw. It was sort of what we've been seeing in training, which is he looks like he's got quick feet. He's got a good touch. He sees the game in a way that I think we can all appreciate. No standout highlights, but there was one moment where he did this chest trap, played it around, and then did a little bit of footwork and nearly slipped in Jesus Ferreira late in the game. And that to me was sort of like, okay, this is a potential piece that might level up the Sounders a little bit.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. Coming into the season, this was before the Areola injuries, but coming into the season, I described Seattle as probably the deepest team in Major League Soccer outside of South Florida. And I think they're like on par with Miami in terms of depth. I just don't look at this squad and think that they are obviously deeper than that Miami team. Yeah, Ryan Kent is a part of that, right? When at this point, I know Craig Weibel has a mixed rep in Seattle. Like at this point, when Craig Weibel and the Sounders sign somebody, my default is that they're going to be probably pretty good. And of course, there's tons of factors that go into a transfer. Ian Graham, formerly at Liverpool, maybe still is. Let's talked about this before. There's so many things that can scuttle a transfer, right? But when Seattle signed players, and that group of players that came off the bench in this game was a pretty good mishmash of players throughout the eras. Yeah, they're probably going to be high-ish level contributors in this league. So I'm excited to see more of Kent, and I'm excited to see more of Seattle, because I think this year, and I'm glad we're doing this sort of show, and that you and Doyle have been doing this on the Western Conference. This year, the West feels up for grabs in a way that I didn't quite expect it to be. And for Seattle to be marching up the table, even after a slow start, there's room for them to continue pushing and pushing and pushing up the West.
No, I totally agree. And it's funny. I'm just looking at the tables right now, and we're not going to get into this, but I do think this is kind of interesting that Charlotte and Cincinnati are at the top of the East, even though Miami and Columbus were the last two undefeated teams going into this weekend. I don't know. It's just the East. I agree with you, though. The West does seem very wide open. And part of that, and we may as well just a good transition into the Whitecaps, who continue to get results, who continue to put up almost mind-boggling performances in CONCACAF Champions Cup. And they're like, the underlying numbers say they're great. The real numbers say they are the best, maybe the best team in MLS right now. They've got a plus 11 goal difference. They are on 20 points through 9 games. They are through to the Champions Cup semifinals. They got a tie this week, which wasn't necessarily a great game, but they just seem to have, and especially against St. Louis, who you would have thought maybe this is a game they were gonna where they'd be able to win that one. But I don't know. What do you make of the Whitecaps right now? Is this a team that we should be taking very seriously as a, and part of why I say it seems wide open is because I'm not sure. I totally believe that they're for real.
It feels weird, right?
Like, everything says they're for real.
Yeah, it feels weird. And this whole season for Vancouver, we're now more than a quarter of the way through the regular season. Yeah. This whole thing has felt like a pinch yourself moment, and then you pinch yourself again the next weekend. And I don't think we're the only ones feeling that. I think Vancouver fans are feeling that. And I don't blame them. It has been year after year after year of finishing between 6th and 9th in the Western Conference.
Right.
You come out of last season and you're once again close, but not quite, against LAFC in the playoffs. And then your second best player in Stu Armstrong walks and he goes back to England. And that's not supposed to work. You're not supposed to have that happen and then become the best team in Major League Soccer.
And then Ryan Gaul gets hurt.
Yeah, and then Ryan Gaul gets hurt. And then you're still playing CCC games when Vancouver are never still playing in CONCACAF at this stage. None of this has been what anybody expected.
You get a 93rd minute winner at Pumas.
It's ridiculous. Like they are single-handedly reversing CCC fever and turning it into a different type of disease, and it's beautiful. Like I didn't see this coming. But one thing that does seem pretty clear to me, and you talked about the underlying numbers, the actual numbers. Well, I've watched a lot of this Vancouver. I've watched every game Vancouver's played this year. They're legit. Like, they look to me like an incredibly dangerous team. They topped my and Ben Wright's power rankings over at Backheeled last week. I haven't seen Ben's rankings yet this week. They are also on top of my rankings yet again this week, even with that draw, which was not their best game against St. Louis. St. Louis rounding back into semi-fitness, which I think is a factor there. And the Caps maybe with half an eye on that game against Miami coming up this week. Big game for them, and it's certainly a bigger game than this regular season match. And they are missing Ryan Gaul, right? This game, and part of the reason why I don't think this was their best game, they couldn't find a lot of really great chances inside the 18. And when you look at the 11 that Jesper Sorensen put out there, it shouldn't be a huge surprise. But it sort of feels surprising now to look at it from the other perspective, because Vancouver had been so good at manufacturing chances under Sorensen so far. They have a clear way of playing. Vancouver, they're a monstrous team defensively. Even away from home, they didn't concede a ton of chances in this game. They were right in it, and I think a draw was a fair result. They are monstrous against the ball with a structure that is always prepared in what is often referred to as rest defense, right? So rest defense meaning when you have the ball, how are you setting up your structure so that when you lose it, you're not in a tough spot right off the bat, right? How are you set up around the ball to have numbers to go win it back, or to at least maintain your shape to push the opposition away from dangerous areas when they come at you? And Vancouver do that as well as anybody in this league. They are an incredibly well-coached team, and they have done an incredible job through 9 games so far this year. The only reason they're not still undefeated, Jeremiah, is that they were stuck playing without like 6 starters against the Chicago Fire during that international break that wasn't an international break. That's the only game they've lost this year. Like, they should be undefeated at this stage of the season. They look to me like the one team in the West that I am really sure of is going to be in a top 4 spot come playoff time.
Well, and since we're on that subject, a part of the reason that I think I look at the West, I think you look at the West, is that once you get past the Whitecaps, who everything says they're for real, even if our mind is telling us,
sure,
maybe not, but everyone else, you can just go down the list. It's like Bizarro World table in some ways. Austin is second right now. They have scored 7 goals through 9 games. They managed to get a 1-0 win this week against a very bad Galaxy team that is just circling the drain right now. And they get a penalty saved. Brandon Vasquez. It is funny. It's been sort of like a monkey paw situation where one of the stories Sounders fans all told ourselves was, well, if you can get Jesus Ferreira for $2 million in GAM, I would never spend $10 million on Brandon Vasquez. They'll probably be about as good as each other. And it turns out they are about as good as each other right now, but not for the reasons that any of us expected. Brandon Vasquez does get a goal in this game on sort of a tap in, but he first has a really bad penalty taken that gets saved. But what do you make of this Austin team? They are getting results, so I don't want to take it, but they have a -1 goal difference through 9 games, and they're in second place. My head is exploding.
Yeah, and I don't blame you for that. The way I've framed it for Backheeled so far this year, and the way that I've been thinking about it is there's good Austin FC and there's bad Austin FC, right? And good Austin FC is the one that can play against the ball, right? Where maybe they have a lead early in a game, and that was the theme for them a lot early in the year, and they can play against the ball and attack in transition. That's good Austin FC, and they're quite good when they can go out there and do that stuff. Between Vasquez and Mirtu Izuni, they've got speed and Hadar Obrian and Osman Bukhari. Owen Wolf was a good little player. Like there's some juice in there on the break. Bad Austin FC is when they have to have the ball and do something with it. And Nico Estevez, that's never been his MO. Certainly wasn't with FC Dallas, where they were a defensive first team. That's been the theme in Austin so far. You mentioned them not scoring goals through 9 games so far this season. They're not a great attacking team. And that has come back to bite them at times so far. But still, despite those challenges, they're sitting in second and they're picking up points left and right. I don't think that when all is said and done that this Austin team will finish second in the Western Conference. I think they will be dropping points. I think they are still quite flawed in terms of defensive personnel, even if the structure is papering over a lot of that stuff. And Brad Stuver being a very good goalkeeper helps there as well. I don't love all of their midfield personnel. And I don't think Estevez has figured out exactly how he wants to use his attacking personnel. Mirtu Izuni is over the weekend against the Galaxy. He switched from a striker spot over to play on a left wing in more of a 4-3-3 instead of a 4-4-2. That's the first time we've seen Estevez go to that 4-3-3 so far this season. He's still looking for answers, Nico Estevez. But I think this team's floor, between the points that they've stacked early in the season and the fact that they're good on set pieces, especially attacking set pieces, and they are a defensively compact team, even if they steadily drop little bit by little bit from that 2 spot in the West, they're still going to be a playoff team. And they should be, right? When you go out and spend as much money as they have, you should be, right? I am not sure that they spent any of that money wisely at this point, but they have certainly gotten better in the attack this year than they were last year, even if those numbers aren't all the way there yet. Their floor is high, even if their entertainment threshold is not.
Yeah. So they played the Galaxy, like I said, and we may as well talk. I wasn't necessarily planning on talking a lot about the Galaxy because I feel like I've buried them a lot on this show, and I'm not here to sort of kick dirt on them. Although they are now winless through 9 games. They're on -10 goal difference. I guess it's not so bad. They just have no answers offensively. They are not necessarily a disaster defensively, which maybe is what you would expect for a team. This is a team that has historically not been great defensively. But man, they cannot find goals right now. They just do not have answers. And that is with Joseph Paintsel, Gabriel Peck, Marco Royce, Christian Ramirez. This is there's offensive talent. Diego Fagundes, there's offensive talent on this team. And they just are not putting up anything like the offensive numbers we would have expected, even if they are missing Ricky Puig, which at this point is a irrelevant fact that barely merits mentioning.
It is interesting. I think we all knew how important Ricky Puig was. I think we all knew that he was important, I should say. I'm not sure I at least had clocked just how important he was to this team.
Clearly should have been MVP the last 2 seasons.
It really looks that way. It really, really looks that way. And I'll take the L on that one. The Galaxy are in a tough spot. Even before you get to the on-field stuff, just the reality of where, and we were talking a little bit about this before we started recording, the reality of where they are right now in the table. Through 9 games, they're 9 points back of the 9th spot in the Western Conference. That's the last wildcard spot. Mm-hmm. That's a problem.
That's a problem.
They're essentially set up to having to pull off a 2023 Sporting Kansas City, which is when SKC picked up 3 points through 10 games. So the Galaxy have one more chance to sort of exceed that. And they ended up sneaking into the bottom of the playoff field. They were a wild card. They win the wild card game. Then they go and upset St. Louis City, and they almost progressed from there. That turned out to be an okay season for SKC when all is said and done. But it started a lot like the Galaxy have started in 2025. There are so many issues. You're talking about the attack. I am worried about the attack. Don't get me wrong. I do trust Peck and Paintsel, though, to find some answers, even while not counting on Marco Reus to be anything because he looks washed. I think those two wingers will, once they actually learn for the first time ever, because this is happening in real time, learn how to play with each other without Ricky Puig. They've not had to do that since I got to LA. And they've only had one 90-minute game where they've both been on the field together, and their team has been playing with 11 men for all 90 minutes. Once. We're 9 games in through the season, plus CCC, by the way. And they still have not. They have 40 CCC games and 9 regular season games. And it's only happened once, and that was in the 1-0 against Austin. That's a problem. So they need reps there, and that's going to come. I think they're going to get better on the attack. I'm worried defensively because Zanka has looked very poor, a 34-year-old Danish center back they brought in over the offseason. Emiro Garces has taken a big step back as the Galaxy have literally on the field stepped back into their own third because they haven't been able to control games in the same way without Ricky Puig. And Garces is just a tragic box defender, even though he's a truly elite center back sweeping up in behind the line, and Sounders fans will know that well. Garces is great at some things and not good at all at other things. Eric Zavaleta got his first start in over a year for the Galaxy over the weekend. Their center back play is not good. Their goalkeeping situation has not been good. They have issues all over the field. It just so happens that the attacking ones are the ones I think are going to come back slightly for them.
Right.
But man, I don't know that we can expect anything from the Galaxy at this point because of the hole that they have dug themselves in.
Well, and it is interesting because this is a team who I don't think any of us, and I include myself in that, really appreciated how many things Ricky Puig was able to paint over. And Edwin Cerrillo is a player who was limited, but the limitations were fine when he was just the guy who had to defend and sort of like be a shield to the defense, but he didn't have to touch the ball almost at all. And now all of a sudden, now that he is playing with more normal sort of midfielders, he doesn't make as much sense, I guess is what I'm saying. And it's like I don't think we appreciated how many players like that the Galaxy had, where if you can play a certain way, this player makes a lot of sense. But if you can't play this way, this player does not make sense, and he can barely be on the field. Yes.
I think that's the case with Cerrillo. I think that's the case with basically every Galaxy midfielder at the moment. I think it's the case with Garces, as we've already talked about. It's everywhere. And then you toss in the fact that the Galaxy went all in last summer, right? They basically they put themselves right up against the cap to sign Marco Reus, right? That's and I don't necessarily blame them for that. If I'm being totally honest, they go and they take his wing. Cup. Yeah, right. And Royce did play a role in that, even though he was basically never all that good for the Galaxy. He was starting playoff games last year. And it just turns out that Marco Reus in the year 2025, at least, is not that guy. Or it doesn't seem like he's that guy. He's been injured. When he's been on the field, he hasn't been effective. It's a huge problem. And so the Galaxy had to go and not just be reminded of how many regular players they have. They had to dump players that were useful and I think impactful players in that midfield, especially when you think about Martocado, they had to get rid of. Gaston Brugman, they got rid of. And then, of course, Dejan Joveljic, who I think, I'd sort of thought that Ramirez was going to be able to produce in this team because the wingers were going to be at that level. And again, I underestimated how good Ricky Puig was. Like that hurt. And a lot of that stuff, at least some of that stuff, was necessitated by them going out there and adding Marco Reus and needing to dump from the cap. And it hasn't worked. I don't think the ideas behind it were poor, but when you miss on your new number 10 and your actual number 10 and Ricky Puig goes down for a year, this is what happens.
Yeah. Well, I'll take a page out of Doyle's book when he said there's not really much to say about Minnesota United because they're just sort of doing the same thing every week and it works. And there's not I think they're probably a for real team somewhere in the top, in that middle third of the playoff positions. I don't really need they had a draw this week. We don't really need to spend too much time on them. But the Timbers are a team who, of course, near and dear to my heart. They played another game this week that was wide open, that was super entertaining from a neutral perspective. They took the lead. They basically led the entire game, but that sort of masked a defense that was just wide open. They gave up 2 goals that were ruled out for offside. They give up a free kick, and then they give up, and they were just this game was all played. This whole game seemed to be played in transition, going both ways, and then it ends up getting decided on a penalty, late penalty. Denny Bwanga drives into the box. He gets stepped on essentially by Diego Chara, and Bwanga then converts the penalty. And then after the game, Phil Neville just loses his mind and is talking about how the referees ruined this game, and he decides to focus on Steve Cherundolo getting red carded, which it's funny. The replays were shot from a weird angle, and so I don't think it's clear what happened. I think what happened is I think he stepped on the field while yelling at the referee, and the referee was like, well, you dummy, you shouldn't have stepped on the field, and he kicked him out. So I don't know if that's such a travesty, but this discussion of the penalty on Bwanga, I look at that and it's a stone cold penalty to me. And there was a lot of discussion about like, oh, well, they waited a whole minute to stop the game. The ball was in play. Yeah. Like they stopped play in the game. Like the ball was in play when they stopped it. That's not taking a long time. That is just doing the basics of what VAR is supposed to do. I don't know. To me, that's a stone cold penalty. It's a bad play defensively. Am I being harsh?
No, I don't think, maybe ever so slightly with the term stone cold, but there is contact, even if it's slight, and Bwanga's momentum's already sort of carrying him forward, which makes it just all the easier for that foul to happen. I will say, I'll preface anything else I say about this with saying that I find few things in this sport more tedious than like detailed refereeing discussion, because I really believe, and I'm going somewhere with this, I really believe that these things all pretty much even out over time. Like you play enough games, and I think they even out. If Phil Neville believes that, I'm not so convinced, because his quote, I guess you can take Phil Neville out of England, but you can't take the England out of Phil Neville. He had a quote after the game. I think his exact wording was, they just want to be the kings of the castle. Shout out to the monarchy. That's just great stuff. I think this is Phil Neville.
A great reference.
Oh, there's good stuff in there, one way or another. I'm not going to quibble with that. I think this is Phil Neville still frustrated from, I don't know, a month and a half ago, whenever this was, where Amiro Garces clears out one of his guys in the box at Providence Park. And this one I don't understand. I
agree with you.
I have no idea how that was not called as a penalty, and that would have like changed a little bit of that game against the Galaxy. I think Neville's still seething a little bit after that draw, and now a month on has another opportunity to uncork at somebody with a meaningful call late in the game. It's bad, but I also just don't buy that really that was the single biggest difference making factor in this game. Portland playing at home, you said it, Jeremiah. Like this game was so open. And that's how the Timbers play so often, is that they cannot control games against the ball. The other flip side, and this is me very much enjoying them as a neutral, and you said something similar, they can score goals, man. Like Jonathan Rodriguez is back. He played the second half of this game as this target winger on the left side, which I think is maybe the most interesting individual player role in all of Major League Soccer. Rodriguez is built like a center forward. He played a bunch of center forward in his career prior to joining the Timbers. He is way up in the box on that assist that he has. It's a beautiful sequence. I actually thought it was Sergio Palencia, but it might have been Aaron Long. Maybe there's multiple moments.
He runs over. He wins the ball off Aaron Long, and then he does
there it is.
some more stuff in the box. Yeah.
He's dominant coming off the bench in this game, and he will be a starter once he's back to full fitness. Santi Moreno is one of the better non-DP attackers in this league. Anthony, even though I'm not a big fan of his, was actually pretty good in the first half. Felipe Mora is constantly underrated. Now he's not always on the field, but when he is on the field, he's very effective. DaCosta had a nice through ball that forced Lloris into this penalty early on in the game. The Timbers have some juice. Just a little unfortunate for them that they look a lot like the Portland Timbers of last year, in that juice is coming for both them and the opposition.
Yeah, I mean the Timbers are for real offensively. They're a scary team to play. There's no question. And it's like, it's even when they're at home, it's just, it almost seems like when they're at home, it almost brings out their worst tendencies, because they just are almost playing to the crowd, where it's just full, pedal to the metal type stuff, where they're just up and down, up and down, up and down. I don't know if they're, and I guess to their credit, I think this is 6 games unbeaten. So they're getting results. It's just, they have some real issues defensively that are not showing any signs of going away anytime soon.
No, and really the personnel hasn't changed all that much. Finn Sermon was signed last summer, 21-year-old New Zealand international. I think he's a promising young player. It's Kamal Miller still starts this game. Juan Mosquera, we know that he doesn't provide a lot of value defensively. Jim Murphy is more of an attack first, ask questions later kind of guy. it's just not, it's not that different. And the Timbers, I think, I don't know what will or will not be done by the time this goes out. I think they're still looking to do some stuff in this window. I don't know how much juice is going to be left in them, but to me, truly, they remind me almost exactly of the Timbers of last year. And that's fun and cool as a neutral. I would be a little frustrated about that if I was a Timbers fan.
Yeah, they're really stretching that axiom that so many fans say, which is I'd rather tie a game 3-3 than win 1-0.
Yes.
And I always question the sanity of people who say things like that, because I don't really believe anyone ultimately feels that way over a long stretch. But hey, maybe it's working for the Timbers. Just kind of going down the list here.
Sure.
And highlighting the Sounders' opponent this week, Colorado Rapids are a team who at times seem like they are really putting it together, and at times seem like maybe not. But the one thing that they have, I should say, I have been extremely critical of Zack Steffen over the last year or two or so. I do not like. I think a lot of us who look at these things have been raising the red flag. This guy allows way more goals than he should be allowing. But this year he's been pretty good.
Better than pretty good. I think he has been fantastic for the Rapids in goal. And I am coming at this from the exact same place you are. I raised not one eyebrow, but both eyebrows when Pochettino first called him into camp in the U.S., and that's happened over and over again. And credit to everybody that's not us, I guess, because Zack Steffen has been really good this season. And I didn't see it coming. In order for the Rapids to really get better this season, I think in some ways, even for them to kind of be back where they were after losing Moise Bombito and like not really getting a whole lot better in the attack from last year as some other teams around them added some pieces, they needed the guys internally to take a step forward. And Steffen, goalkeepers can have this massively outsized impact on games, right? I think about the Revs winning the Shield back in 2021. Matt Turner is so important for them. Georgi Petrovic shortly after is so important for the Revs. The Revs don't win silverware. The Revs aren't what they are without those two pieces. And that goes for the Rapids right now with Zack Steffen, who has been fantastic. Chris Armas recently, and I'm a tactics nerd at heart, so I hope you'll excuse me. Chris Armas recently has shifted his structure. I know I was in the right spot. It was more of a formality than anything else. He shifted his structure to away from a 4-3-3 with Georgie on the left wing to a 4-2-2. And so that's looked like the back four. Sam Vines is back now. He played his second game of the season over the weekend. That's a big add for the Rapids. I think makes them better clearly. Vines will get forward on that left side. And the structure has now changed with Kevin Cabral moving to the bench, which is massive because Kevin Cabral is not a starting player in this league. Finally, Armas moved him to the bench and added Darren Yappy onto the field. And this was in that win over San Diego, which was a pretty impressive win, all things considered, for the Rapids 2 weekends ago. And it's a 4-2-2 with Navarro and Yappy up top and Georgie and Cole Bassett as the two kind of narrow attacking-minded midfielders. And it's a friend-turned-foe, Josh Atencio, in midfield next to Ali Larraz. And it's just a buzzsaw of a midfield to play through. Cole Bassett's work rate's off the charts. The front two do a lot of defensive work. Georgie's kind of in and out sometimes. But Atencio and Larraz are workers at the base of that midfield. And you have a team that is unpleasant, to say the least, to play against. They press they press San Diego, even maybe at times more aggressively than the Sounders press San Diego. And the Sounders had some success turning San Diego over at times in that game. Colorado turned it into goals a couple weekends ago. They had some good pressing transition moments against Houston. They were maybe a bit unfortunate not to win that game. They conceded in the 96th minute, a tough one for them. But the Rapids are getting healthier, first of all. And I think Armas is figuring out how to really leverage the strength of this team, which is his central midfield group. It's Atencio, it's Larraz, it's Bassett, it's Mihailovic, even Connor Ronan, who I don't think we've seen at all so far this season with injury stuff. He was on the bench over the weekend. Ted Kudi-Pietro is getting back and is finally healthy for this team. He made his debut a couple weekends ago. There are pieces here, and Armas has found a system that gets four of the most important pieces in those midfielders on the field together. I like what the Rapids are building right now.
What have you made of Josh Atencio so far this year?
He has been, I think, what probably everybody would have expected him to be, which is rangy, aggressive defensively, at times a useful ball progressor, although I think that's still the piece of his game that is lagging behind the rest of his game. But he is super effective as the deepest player in that midfield. And he's done it in a structure that's changed over the course of the season. He's played as more of a single pivot. He's played now as part of a double pivot. He has been the reliable defensive presence that I think the Rapids really wanted him to be. That's how they play. That's why they identified Atencio. I think that was a really, really sharp ad for them over the offseason. It's paid off so far.
Yeah, and he's basically starting every game.
Yeah,
he's not necessarily a 90-minute player every week, but he is getting a ton of minutes. I mean, this is, I would think, from a developmental standpoint, been a good move for everyone involved.
Totally.
Really, Atencio has a clear path to playing time that he never had here. He is getting that playing time, which he was not consistently getting here. And the Sounders have some salary cap flexibility. They're able to, I think, and this is not a bad situation for him. He seems to be with a coach who understands how to use him, who wants to use him. He's maybe not been a star for them, but he's been good, and he seems to fit in really nicely with what they're doing. I'm happy that things seem to be working out well for him.
Yeah, that felt like it was always going to be a win-win trade, I suppose, to factor in the player as well. I think you said it really well there. It's worked out for everybody. The Sounders just didn't need him, and they would have benefited more from getting the extra cap flexibility. That's what happened. It's worked out for the Rapids. It's worked out for Atencio, who very much, I think, is benefiting from playing Chris Armas, who knows a thing or two about being sort of this aggressive midfielder. I think it's worked out for everybody.
Yeah, and I honestly, especially if they were serious about moving him to center back, I don't know that he would have been playing at all right now. Like it's hard,
I mean, minutes were going to be hard to come by. Yeah, no doubt.
They were going to be, exactly. While we're on it though, while we're on this game, the late equalizer came from a new addition Houston added. They're one of a handful of teams in the West who seem to be pretty active as this window is closing.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about this guy?
You just didn't want to say the name, did you? Andrej Linger? I've never actually heard it pronounced. So I was watching this game on mute. I didn't catch the commentary.
Name.
No, I believe me, I've been there. I know how to spot it. That's me on a semi-regular basis. Linger is a 26-year-old Czech Republic international, signed from Slavia Prague over in the Czech top flight. Generally one of the best teams, if not the best team over in that league. He has had a couple of really nice goal-scoring seasons for them over the past few years. I think he had 14 back in 2021, 22, and then 11 the year after that, went to Feyenoord for a little bit in the Eredivisie, which is a bigger club, no doubt about that, and is now finally in Houston. He'd signed 3 weeks before he made his debut. It was an agonizing waiting period for the Dynamo, who have needed points. Like, they have been so injured, especially on the wing. They've been missing pieces. They lost Mikael right before the season started, moving to Palmeiras in Brazil. They just needed bodies. Like, they got worse in the offseason where almost everybody else got better. And so they finally bring in Linger during the season. He comes off the bench and makes his debut for the Dynamo and looked good. It was a tiny cameo, 15 minutes plus stoppage time, but came and played on the left wing, tucked inside the central midfield at times. And what Pat Onset highlighted about Linger when they signed him in the press release was, I think he called him a goal-scoring midfielder who's going to make us more dangerous in the box with his presence inside the 18. Something to that effect. But he certainly used the term goal-scoring midfielder, which I thought was curious at the time, because when I watch Houston play, and when I've watched them play for the last 2 years under Ben Olsen, since he got there, the Dynamo have been a below-average attacking team when it comes to creating chances in the final third. They're great at getting to the final third, and Onset even highlighted that last summer in an interview with Jonathan Siegel over at MLSsoccer.com. They're great at getting to the final third, not so great when they get there. I thought it was odd that they would highlight somebody and go sign somebody who is more of a finisher than a creator. I still think it's odd. I think it's an incomplete as to how he's going to grade out in Houston, but he is clearly someone who can threaten inside the 18 if he has service. I just don't know until the wingers get healthy for Houston, or maybe even past that. I don't really know where the service is coming from. So we'll see. Maybe Linger's got some more on-ball stuff to his game than Onset wanted to highlight in that, or maybe he's got more than I saw in this game. Either way, the Dynamo get better with him on the field. It's just a question of how much. Yeah.
So following the table, San Diego FC feels like they are coming back to earth a little bit. Maybe hit a high water mark when they just absolutely dominated the Sounders for that stretch. There was really a 8-minute stretch where they just all of a sudden took over that game. But as you said earlier, and I appreciated that you acknowledging this, because I feel like there was this narrative around that game where the Sounders got played off the park, and that the Sounders were just playing through the Sounders press, and the Sounders couldn't play through theirs. And it's like, did you watch the game, or did you happen to watch the highlights? Because that's not what happened. What happened was the Sounders were actually pressing San Diego pretty well, forcing them into a lot of long balls, but they could not do anything when they turned the ball over. And San Diego then caught the Sounders in transition a couple times, not out of pressing situations, just good old-fashioned transition. And now in the last couple of weeks, San Diego has not been able to do what they had been doing up until through the Sounders game, and they've gotten caught a little bit. They've given up 6 goals in the last 2 weeks, and they got outplayed pretty badly against Charlotte.
They did. They no doubt. That's the case, without a doubt. They're going down to 10 men almost to the end of the first half. Andres Reyes is up to his old tricks. I included in that winners and losers column for Backheeled. Winner, Andres Reyes' brand, where his brand is just being the most chaotic defender MLS has seen since Francisco Calvo left the league. That's his thing. And you got to love it. Keep doing you, man. As far as San Diego
goes, while we're on that, I just want to stick on that a little bit. That VAR review has to be the most brutal VAR in history, because in case people don't know what happened, Andres Reyes is red carded in real time. It's a dog-so red card, and then the referee gets called to VAR it, and you're like, oh, maybe there's a lifeline here. No, there is no lifeline, sir. It is a penalty, and okay, not a red card, but it's your second yellow card. You're still gone.
There it is.
I don't know what to tell you. And it was just the most brutal VAR sequence. I can't get more brutal than that. I don't think it can.
It really cannot. It's not a red card. You're still off though. You got to go. Forgive me. I don't remember who the commentators were on this game for Apple TV. I thought they did an excellent job of pointing out the nuance there, because it does matter for like suspension purposes and for card accumulation stuff. Still, just utterly savage towards Andres Reyes. Got a good chuckle out of me.
It also added a penalty. That was the thing that was the killer about it, was that on top of it being a red card, it's like I guess there's some small, I don't know. It's just the fact that it added a penalty to it.
It's brutal. It really is brutal. And San Diego never found a way back from that. They were down 2-0 at that point. They'd already struggled early on in that game with direct attacking play from Charlotte, where it's Liel Abada who slips in behind off of a nice assist from Pep Biel. And in San Diego, when they're on their back foot scrambling, they don't have the elite defensive talent to really manage those moments well. And I think we saw that at times against Colorado, who are a very direct team, and Charlotte are the same way. They press, they don't press as much as Colorado do, but they are very vertical in their attack. And San Diego do not deal with that well. And it wasn't just Andres Reyes. On the first goal, it's Chris McVie and Patty McNair on the left side of the back line. They didn't do a great job dealing with Charlotte's attack. And then Reyes goes down. At that point, it's 2-0 after the penalty, and it's game over, right? Down 2 goals on the road with 10 men for the second half. You can pack it in at that point. I think what we're seeing with San Diego is that they really do struggle with those direct moments. That, I think, is the big takeaway from these last 2 weeks. I still think they're a really good team. I'm not I think they're a playoff team. I think they might even be more than a playoff team, though. I think they still might well be one of the best 3 teams in the Western Conference when all is said and done. Okay. I think that they've had 2 games in a row against teams that are fairly bad matchups for them in a way that they really hadn't been tested so far this season, where they hadn't played a team that was going to press them and attack with as much aggression as Colorado, or were going to come at them in the same way as Charlotte did. They also hadn't played a game with Andres Reyes, and that truly changed the entire complexity of the game when that second yellow actually ends up happening. So I'm holding my San Diego stock.
Andres Reyes to the game.
Yeah, right. I mean, it was a chaotic element that I don't think San Diego were fully ready for. I think they're sort of like a maybe ex-girlfriend situation here of like, I can change them, right? I can change. It's hard to change Andres Reyes. I think that's what we're learning. I think Tyler Heaps really was trying, and I'm not sure if it's going to work. I think San Diego are going to be okay. I think they're probably going to be better than okay, and I'm holding that stock, and hopefully I'm maybe even hoovering up a few more shares when other people are selling.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think that's it's a good time. I guess if there's a time to buy
this might
San Diego, this is probably it. So LAFC is I really don't know what to make of them, because there are weeks where they look like themselves, and then there are weeks where they really don't. And I'm curious what you make of LAFC. They tied Portland this week 3-3. Like I said, they created some decent. They created scoring chances.
Yeah.
Olivier Giroud finally gets his first MLS goal, which is a surreal thing to be saying. And of course, it's a free kick. I saw this goal happen. I saw MLS tweet about it,
And the caption from MLS's handle on X, I guess it is now, was like Olivier Giroud scores his first MLS goal. And I was actually shocked that they went with that caption. I think they're assuming that people didn't realize that he signed last year. I don't know what it is. Because that's a roast. You just got roasted, Olivier Giroud, by the MLS handle. It's taken you almost a year. No, it's taken you the better part of a year to actually find a goal for your team. Mind-boggling. I don't fully know what to make of this LAFC team either. I think there's some things that I believe about this team. I believe that they have gotten less adventurous in midfield under Steve Cherundolo as the years have gone on. As Eduard Atuesta has left, Ilya Sanchez left over the offseason. I think they've struggled to progress the ball and find touches in the box. They were, I don't have the stat in front of me, I looked it up last week. They are like bottom 10 in MLS in box touches per 90 minutes. LAFC, they do not move the ball into the box. And that was a difference in this game. This is the next thing I believe about LAFC. If Denny Bouanga is firing, this team is still going to be really, really, really good. And he had his best game of the season against Portland by a country mile. He was dominant on the left side in a way that he just hasn't been. He's been off. And it's not just him aging, right? He is still way up there on progressive carries per 90. He's still knifing forward and beating guys on the dribble. He just hasn't been goal dangerous or assist dangerous so far in 2025. And that changed over the weekend. If he's going to be a superstar, like I think we probably all imagine he is, LAFC are still going to be a good team. The other thing I believe about this LAFC team is that if they can get some semblance of attacking production from any of their other attackers, right? It could be Giroud, it could be Devin Martinez, who I've got a lot of stock in. It could be Cengiz Under, who I do like a lot, even though I don't really think anybody knows exactly what his future is with LAFC. It doesn't seem like he's going to be around past the summer when his contract is up. It's a weird situation there. They're waiting for Griezmann. They're not getting Griezmann. Now they've got flexibility to actually go and find the piece that they want to be that third DP. If they can get something from one of those other guys, I think this team is going to be really, really good. It's just a question of, can they actually get that something? And against Portland, the answer was yes, even with the defensive errors that kind of scuttled that game for them. But going forward, I still don't think we have a clear answer on who the Denny Bouanga sidekick is really going to be.
Ready to kickstart your fitness journey? Whether you're an athlete, a fitness enthusiast, or just getting back into shape, BodySpec has you covered. For less than the price of a haircut, you can access DEXA scans, the world's most accurate body composition scan. Right now, we're offering an exclusive $10 discount on single scans, which brings the price down to $50. Just visit the site bodyspec.com/sounderatheart and use the code SOUNDER at checkout. The scans only take about 10 minutes and you get results in less than an hour. This is the same type of technology that top athletes around the world use to keep track of things like muscle mass and bone density. These types of scans traditionally cost more than twice as much. Although there are brick and mortar locations around the Puget Sound, they also have mobile facilities that visit gyms across the region. Just visit bodyspec.com/sounderatheart to get more information.
Thank you for listening to the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network, which now includes No Sarietes, Lobbing Scorchers, and the Cooler Guild. We've been independent since August of 2023, but need your support to make sure it continues. Although this podcast is free, it's only made possible by your continued support. Memberships start as low as $25 a year, which not only helps make podcasts like this one happen, but also gets you access to everything we produce. If you're able to support us at higher levels, starting at $75 a year, you gain access to a host of other perks, most notably entry into our members-only Discord, where the smartest, funniest, and most engaged commenters share their thoughts and ideas. To find out more, just visit sounderatheart.com and click the subscribe button in the top right corner. Thanks for listening.
No Sarietes, admittedly, is not exactly known for our spicy takes, but that doesn't mean we want our food to be mild. Spice up your life with Hacks and Ferments. Handcrafted in Georgetown and made with the best local ingredients from across the Pacific Northwest, they specialize in unique small batch fermented hot sauces and vinegars. Hacks and Ferments brings bold flavors and natural fermentation together for something truly special. Whether you're a heat seeker or just looking to elevate your cooking, you'll find something you love at hacksandferments.com. That's HAXANFERMENTS.com. And right now, if you use the code SOUNDERATHEART, that's all one word, at checkout, you will get a free hot sauce with your order. Again, go to hacksandferments.com, use the code SOUNDERATHEART at checkout for a free hot sauce with your order. Hacks and Ferments is a proud sponsor of the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network. Okay, so we don't necessarily need to dig too deep into the rest of the table here, but there are some moves in the Western Conference that are worth noting. San Jose all of a sudden seems like they got really active, completing the overhaul that Bruce Arena has put them through. They're picking up Noel Buck, right? They're picking up DeJuan Jones, so it's like sort of still getting the band back together from New England. And then they ship.
Go. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go.
I was just gonna say, and then they also apparently they're loaning out Oscar Verhoeven, who's a promising young left back, to San Diego. So this is really like all the great hit. Like Bruce is really playing the hits.
He is, and he played the hits in goal over the weekend for San Jose. He started former Bruce Arena guy Earl Edwards Jr. in goal, and that did not go well.
I missed that.
They shipped 5 goals to Sporting Kansas City. Sporting Kansas City of all teams. Yeah,
juggernaut.
Juggernaut. Bad result for San Jose there. This is Bruce continuing to get his guys, like you're saying, Jeremiah. They needed more juice. This team just needs more talent still.
Yeah,
they need especially more talent that can be like responsible defensively, and DeJuan Jones can be that. They're playing Christian Espinoza at right wing back right now, and that has some upside in the attack, where San Jose have been good in the attack this year.
Yeah.
The gaping hole between Christian Espinoza and Rodriguez, their outside center back and their right wing back, against Sporting Kansas City was outer space-esque. Like it was truly wild to see how big that gap was. DeJuan Jones will be a more responsible player if he does end up at that right wing back spot. Shout out to Tom Bogert for reporting these moves. Noel Buck, another high profile player, wasn't getting minutes in New England. Caleb Porter didn't like him. Didn't have a good loan spell over in England. Get him back to a coach who knows him, who's played him before. I don't think he's going to be an every game star for this San Jose team. I'm not quite as high on him as I was when he was first breaking through with New England, but I mean, it's going to add something to this San Jose team, and they need something in this group right now.
Yeah, and then the other team who's making some big move, or a big move, is RSL, who is signing a DP9. They have really struggled to find goals this year.
They have. It's been brutal for RSL. This team's just gotten worse straight up since last summer. They sell Andres Gomez. I know we've talked about this before. He goes to Ligue 1, and it just falls apart. And you can't really blame RSL for selling Andres Gomez. He wanted to go take the next step in his career. Moving players on is part of convincing the next players to come and join your team in the first place, especially when there's an 8-figure price tag attached to that and you can cash in. He goes, and it's just almost a straight arrow down for RSL. Diogo Gonçalves has not been a good player for them, at least not a consistently good player. Dom Marchuk on the right side has not been Andres Gomez in any way since they brought him in from Poland. They need more. And when you trade Chicho Arango, you need even more than that. And so they are looking to sign a player that I'm now going to chicken out on and not attempt the first name. Okay, well, it's Robert, the first name. It's the last name that I'm scared about. Robert from Boa Vista, who's not put up crazy numbers in Portugal, but I mean, the bar is low for RSL to be a better team. Seems like that deal is going to get over the line. They need talent straight up, especially in the attack. Defensively, they've had problems too, but one problem at a time for Pablo Mastroeni right now.
Yeah, that was a head scratcher for me when I saw the sort of the numbers that he had put up. And I mean, I don't know. I always struggle to translate numbers to production, like in other leagues, to production in MLS mentally. And so I think on some level, you sort of have to trust the scouting networks with teams, and you have to sort of, I had the same reaction when Portland signed their number 10.
David DaCosta. Yeah.
David DaCosta, thank you. And it was like, I don't really see what's so attractive, but he's been good. So this feels like a similar situation as RSL. Like I don't know who this guy is. I just look at his
for me, it's a wait and see thing until I actually will have a full on take on that, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, that's probably a good place. We don't need to go through the rest of these teams, I don't think, right now. I will note St. Louis City just playing absolutely drab soccer these days. They have scored. They're a total of 11 goals scored in their games. San Jose, on the other hand, 36 goals scored in all their games. These two, I don't know. And St. Louis all of a sudden not getting the results either, which makes it. It's one thing if you're going to play boring soccer, but you got to get some results, and they got a 0-0 this week. So I guess that's
And by definition, there's a result in there somewhere. Yeah, they've had the fewest combined goals in their games of any team in MLS so far, which it's not great, but at the same time, it's not great when you look at how long their injury list has been. They've missed so many guys so far this season, and they're kind of hanging in there, just like doing enough to keep themselves in some relevant conversations. They get healthier a little bit over the weekend. We see a sort of return from Olaf Melberg to some players that he's needed back in this group. But I'm not trying to tell you that St. Louis are a must-watch team right now, because they're not.
No, I appreciate that. Well, anyway, thank you so much for doing this. Backheeled, I hope people are reading it. I hope people are subscribing. I would like to give a pitch. If you are a Sounder at Heart subscriber and you want to get access to Backheeled, if you become an advocate level supporter, that is I think it's $210 for the year. You get a free subscription to Backheeled. I have loved being able to provide that feature. I love it. Helps support you guys. We basically, just to give you a peek behind the curtain, we pay you guys for the sub. So it's a double whammy thing. You get to support 2 independent soccer media sites. I love reading Backheeled. I think you guys are doing a great job, and it's not just MLS. It's getting into USL, which you guys have some of the best USL coverage, I think, as well. It's really good. So anyway, Joe, thank you for doing all that. And anything you want to plug? Anything else you want to plug?
No, that is, first of all, that's all very kind of you. And I love doing this stuff. I love talking MLS. Probably like it a little bit too much for my mental sanity, but this is always fun. I love coming in and pinch hitting whenever you need me. The one thing I'll plug, I mean, you've been very kind, is we do have what I think is a really fun Obed Vargas feature coming out. It just so happens that it's a Seattle Sounders thing. I don't know exactly when, but in the next couple of weeks, that's going to be out. And I think it's going to be some stuff that people haven't heard before. So I'm excited about
Who's writing it?
We've got John Arnold cooking this one up behind the scenes. And John is fantastic, as I'm sure many of these listeners will already know. Yeah,
John Arnold, the CONCACAF
legend himself.
Legend.
I'm excited.
I am too. Now I am excited. I'm really excited to read this. So, all right. Well, Joe, thank you so much for doing this again. Backheeled.com is the site that you're running. And yeah, thank you for doing this. And I'm Jeremiah Shan signing off for Nos Audietes. We'll catch you next time.
I expect a LAFC who's motivated to prove themselves at home, to prove to their fans that they're capable of winning in this league. And it's up to us to really brew in the party. You guys like that? No. Awkward joke, dad joke right there, huh?